You're a chemical genius's academic girlfriend, yet you can't even get near his lab door. Even your carefully planned desk slam and wall slam attempts were met with him seriously installing security bars. And he even went so far as to pretend to be a scaredy cat singing off key children's songs, only to earn a burst of laughter from everyone present, thanks to his lab speakerphone. However, just when I finally decided to give up on being proactive, he pinned me to the floor to deal with experimental errors with a successful proposal experiment report. The year we graduated from university, Jason was still on the fast track in chemical engineering, having been accepted into a top-tier graduate program at one of the best universities in the country. As for me, Isabel, I made 2 decisions that made my dad want to bash my head against a wall. The first was breaking free from their clutches and following Jason to a city very, very far from home. The second was not finding a job related to my undergraduate major, nor working as a general assistant at my dad's company, but instead becoming a freelancer, a novelist. Jason moved into his graduate school dorm almost immediately after graduation, while I spent 2 months at home battling my dad before successfully escaping and renting a small apartment in a complex next to his school. As soon as I got off the plane, I spotted Jason, who had come to pick me up at the airport. So, pushing 2 suitcases, one large and one small, I ran all the way to him. Jason stared at me for a long time, then asked, "Did you put on makeup?" "Yeah," I replied. I was happily waiting for him to compliment my beauty, but instead, he raised his hand and rubbed his fingertip over my lips several times. "Hey, what are you doing?" I turned my head to get away from him. "You've rubbed off all my lipstick." He ignored me, and instead, with his other hand, cupped my face and kissed me directly. Thump, thump. After a very long time, Jason's lips left mine, and he whispered, "Don't wear lipstick anymore. It contains lead, mercury, and parabens, and besides, it's not good for kissing." We arrived at the apartment, and Jason helped me unpack for most of the day. He didn't even get to eat dinner before his advisor called him away. "So, are you still coming over tonight?" I asked, blinking, as I tugged on his sleeve when he was leaving. "We'll see. Actually, I wanted to ask Jason if he wanted to move in with me. I had traveled all this way to be with him. Wasn't it so I could spend a lot of time with him every day? I swear, I'm a good kid, raised under traditional culture, and I didn't have any ulterior motives. But would saying that make me seem too frivolous? If I finish up and still have time, I'll come keep you company for a late-night snack." "Oh, okay." I pouted and let him go. So, like a concubine waiting for the king's favor, I held my phone, gazing longingly we hadn't seen each other for 2 months. And now that we'd just met, Jason was already gone again. Even more tragically, 2 hours later, it suddenly started raining, with thunder, lightning, wind, and rain all at once. I'm not afraid of thunder, but I was afraid that because of the thunder and rain, I wouldn't be able to have a late-night snack with Jason tonight. I sent a voice message to my best friend to complain. How is this any different from a long-distance relationship? My best friend retorted, "Get lost. My boyfriend is in Australia, but I'm so close to him and I live alone, so why doesn't he show any interest in moving in with me?" My best friend thought for a moment and said, "Maybe Jason is too laid back, and you don't have big breasts, so he doesn't have any desire for you." I had no response to that. After much thought, I decided I couldn't let others mock me, saying, "Why does your boyfriend seem so vague and elusive?" So, I gritted my teeth and stomped my foot, deciding to take the initiative. My best friend's first suggestion, create a timid persona. Hearing the rolling thunder, a sudden idea struck me. I quickly dialed Jason's number and pretended to be terrified by the thunder to gain sympathy. "Hello, Jason. The thunder is too loud, and I'm scared alone. Then just keep talking to me like this, and I'll come find you when I'm done." It was a bit noisy on his end. Okay. I secretly rejoiced, but after only a few exchanges, he stopped talking. I didn't want to hang up, so I made small talk. "Jason, sing me a song." "I can't sing." He refused. "Then I'll sing to you." I cleared my throat and, without thinking, began. "Little swallow, wearing flowery clothes, comes here every spring. I ask the swallow why it comes, and the swallow says, 'The mountain roads here have 18 bends. The waterways have 9 loops. The folk songs here are in rows. The folk songs here are in strings.'" After singing, I suddenly realized that the lonely and timid persona I had just created had completely collapsed, and I felt that it was even noisier over there. with many people laughing. Isabel, I forgot to tell you. I'm doing an experiment, so I put it on speakerphone. The laughter over there grew louder, he added. This swallow you met certainly talks a lot. My best friend's second suggestion. Tell him about safety hazards, and that you need someone to accompany you. The next day, hey Jason, when I sleep at night, I always feel like there's a figure outside. What if a bad guy gets in? Don't be scared. I'll go over and check. I happily waited for him to come. But when I opened the door, a whole team of people rushed in, with toolboxes and everything else you could imagine. Jason pinched my face and said with a smile, I checked, and there are indeed safety hazards. So I helped you replace the lock and install anti-theft windows. My best friend's third suggestion, the temptation of coming home. I redecorated my home in pink, lit aromatherapy candles, bought new wine glasses, ordered steak for takeout, and finally put on heavy makeup to attract men, changed into a short skirt that exposed my shoulders, and sat at the dining table waiting for him to arrive. 8 o'clock, Jason didn't come. 9 o'clock, Jason still didn't come. I watched the sky darken little by little, feeling anxious. After imagining a little vixen seducing Jason, I started imagining Jason accidentally blowing himself up while doing an experiment. Finally, when I imagined him with his intestines and kidneys spilled all over the floor, vomiting blood in large gulps, I couldn't help but grab my phone and make a call. Jason, are you okay? I was scared stiff, but his voice was as usual. There's a problem with the experiment. You eat first. Don't starve. Good thing you're not dead. I breathed a sigh of relief. What's not dead? He was a bit confused. Nothing. I felt ashamed of my incredibly vivid imagination and repented that cursing him like that was too much. He was stingy and hung up after only a few words. I waited and waited until 11 o'clock, and finally, I couldn't control the long suppressed sleepiness and fell asleep. When I opened my eyes, I was woken up by the sound of the door opening. The scented candle on the table had burned out. I rubbed my sleepy eyes and saw Jason turn on the small light next to the shelf by the door, changing into slippers with one hand against the wall. The room was dark, except for where he was, and in a trance. I felt like he was a protagonist in a movie with special effects and a halo. His whole being exuded immense warmth. Jason looked in my direction, a little stunned, then slowly walked closer, and suddenly leaned over me across the table. I held my breath, thinking, here it comes. The moment of mischief is about to arrive. It must be because I'm too beautiful, making Jason have improper thoughts. Is this the legendary table slam? Should I act shy or respond enthusiastically? His face got closer. I unconsciously swallowed, and my heart contracted fiercely. Jason, however, raised his hand and rubbed my eye. What's that dark stuff? And eye boogers. He then pouted in disgust. My face suddenly flushed, and I bolted to the bathroom, staring at the witch with smeared makeup in the mirror. Isabel, one day you'll die from your own stupidity. That night, Jason watched me get into bed, then prepared to leave in a hurry. It's so dark, why don't you leave tomorrow? I tentatively asked. It's fine. I'm not afraid of the dark, he said. Hey, I'm afraid of the dark. I called out to Jason, who already had one foot out of the bedroom, wanting to say more but hesitating. He came back to me, flicked on the small bedside lamp with a snap, and then bent his index finger to flick my nose. Now it's not dark. Go to sleep quickly. The next day, I decided to use my last resort fortune-telling. They say fate is predetermined, and I felt like I was under a spell, believing I had to find a master to tell my fortune to know when I could finally win Jason over. The fortune-teller said, girls these days are really something. I've seen people asking for love and for reconciliation, but I've never seen anyone asking for premarital cohabitation. His words made my face flush. Why did his words make me feel like an insatiable little hussy? If you can't tell fortunes, I'm leaving. I feigned calmness and threatened him with these words. No, little girl, I'll tell your fortune right away. He quickly grabbed my arm. The master rolled his eyes upwards, rubbed his fingers together, and mumbled for a long time before telling me. This weekend, after the moon rises, just kiss him. I asked, is it that simple? The master said, yes, it's that simple. And, as if by some strange twist of fate, I believed him, so I gave him 200 yuan bills and skipped away. But fate had other plans. Jason was going to Qingdao for an academic conference. This weekend, I was furious. A golden opportunity I'd paid 200 yuan for was being ruined by his important business. So, I begged and pleaded, clinging to his arm and leg, asking Jason to take me to Qingdao with him. Of course, he refused. You won't understand anything there. I majored in this in college too, and I've always wanted to experience the atmosphere of such a highbrow conference. No way, he shook off my arm. 3 days later, he and I were on a plane to Qingdao. I knew Jason couldn't resist me. It was already evening when we arrived at the hotel front desk. I awkwardly sidled up to Jason, fiddling with my ID card, thinking how nervous I was that I would be sharing a room with him tonight. But Jason calmly told the front desk lady, 2 king-size rooms, please. Just as I was despairing, the classic only one room left trope from TV dramas perfectly appeared. I had just gone from sadness to joy when I saw him turn to his fellow senior student and say, "Then I'll share a twin room with you." No problem. Oh, heavens and earth, how can I kiss Jason after the moon rises? Since sharing a room was out, I had to start plan B. "Hey, Jason, I'm hungry. Come out and eat with me." I messaged him on WeChat. My plan was flawless. When Jason came to my room to call me, I'd pull him inside, then pin him against the wall, and then we'd embrace passionately amidst our fervor. Let's go. 2 minutes later, he came to call me. I reached out to pull him in, but he stood stubbornly at the doorway. "Aren't you hungry? Let's go eat." No matter, I still had plan C. It wouldn't be too late to make my move once we got to the restaurant. I thought we'd go somewhere romantic, but he just pulled me straight to the hotel restaurant. Oh, I forgot. The hotel had given us a few dinner buffet vouchers. I'm going crazy. A hotel buffet is fine. I can accept that. But the room was full of professors, PhDs, and graduate students from this field. Jason walked ahead of me, constantly greeting many people, and finally pulled me to sit with a group of them. They were discussing their research directions and challenges with great relish, while I could only eat the colorful things on my plate, bite by bite. Who am I? Where am I? Why am I here with Jason? What a wonderful evening. The next day, I followed Jason to the venue. Just before entering, I saw a large box of what looked like eavesdropping devices on the table. Simultaneous interpretation devices. Want one? Jason asked me, turning sideways. I nodded vigorously. I had never imagined he was taking me to an all-English conference. What I also didn't expect was that I was the only one in the entire venue with a translator's headset on. After the meeting started, I realized that the 2 things mentioned above were not the most upsetting. The most upsetting thing was that there were too many Chinese words in this world that I didn't understand. The white-haired foreign professor on stage babbled on, while Jason occasionally responded appropriately to his dark humor. When he occasionally turned his head, I tried my best to force a smile, an awkward yet polite one. At that moment, I felt no different from an idiot. On the second day of the conference, mostly students went up to give presentations. Of course, Jason was among them. I was surprised by his research speed. He was the only first-year graduate student presenting, and it was all in English. The familiar figure on stage was eloquently flipping through his PPT, radiating an undeniable brilliance. Meanwhile, my feelings were a mix of emotions. His excellence made me proud, but it also made me uncontrollably self-conscious. Jason spoke eloquently under a spotlight, and when his report concluded, the entire room erupted in applause. I overheard 2 white-haired chemical engineering experts beside me chatting, saying that this young man was a rare talent. Not far away, several girls had admiring glints in their eyes. I suddenly had an urge to declare to the whole world that this was my boyfriend, and no matter how excellent he was, they couldn't steal him. But I didn't, because I knew that if they saw me at this level, it would probably boost the enemy's morale. This isn't self-deprecation. It's self-awareness. That evening's banquet was so grand that I felt like I had walked into the wrong venue. A lively rock band played appropriately, and professors and students from various prestigious universities around the world held high-stemmed glasses, smiling as they discussed their research progress. The round tables were continuously laden with various delicacies and chilled Tsingtao beer. Big names were surrounded by rising stars, and rising stars by big names. Jason leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Shall I take you for a walk?" I shook my head vigorously and said, "Don't disturb me while I'm eating abalone and sea cucumber." So he got up himself and walked into the crowd. Actually, I don't like abalone at all. Nor do I like sea cucumber. They taste mediocre and are fatty. I just felt that I would embarrass Jason. Yes, I'm a coward. A male voice next to me suddenly spoke up. Which school are you a student from? I said, I'm not a student. Then are you an employee of the investing company? I said, no. Then are you the conference secretary? To spare him the trouble of guessing further, I told him directly, I write novels. He suddenly understood. So you're a literature graduate student. But this conference's theme is very different from literature. I smiled awkwardly. Not far. Not far at all. I'm here to gather writing material. He clicked his tongue. You're really dedicated to gathering writing material. I joked. That's nothing. For a male lead in the chemical engineering department, I'm even ready to offer myself. He widened his eyes. His Adam's apple bobbed. And then he tilted his head back and took a gulp of beer. I thought he might have misunderstood. Later, the guy enthusiastically chatted with me about Lao Shi, Shen Fu, Li Qingzhao, and Zhu Ziqing. To reciprocate his enthusiasm, I then chatted with him about Xie Qishi, Yu Xiao Yanran, Fei Wo Si Kun, and Lin Jilan. Eventually, we both looked bewildered, and then we tacitly fell silent. To ease the awkwardness, we kept smiling, clinking glasses, and drinking. By the time Jason returned, I was already high on Tsingtao draft beer. That delicious taste, as if after drinking it, a large amount of beer foam would dance with you, and you would spin and jump amidst the flying beer bubbles. So sweet and delightful that your face would be beaming with a happy smile. Jason coldly glanced at the guy, then flicked my forehead with his finger. I bared my teeth and gave him a sweet smile. Let's go, he said. I nodded obediently. As I stood up, the boy, his face flushed, said, Want to add me on WeChat? I'm always happy to provide writing material. Jason paused, his voice as cold as a freezer. She's stupid. She won't understand your material. On the way back to the room, slightly tipsy, I hung my head and mumbled behind Jason. Jason, I'm sorry. As he said, I am indeed stupid. It is truly a great misfortune in his life to have such a foolish and idiotic girlfriend. He said, You know that too? I said, Of course I do. He said, Then why were you clinking glasses with other guys? Are you here to accompany me? Or to flirt? I was stunned and quickly explained, Oh, I wasn't flirting. He was telling me about Lao, Shi, Shen Fu, Li Qingzhao, and Zhu Ziqing. I still admire chemical engineering students who know so much about literature. Jason's cold gaze swept over me. He silently reached for my room card and swiped open the door. It seemed that instead of putting out the fire, I had accidentally poured oil on it. To make up for my mistake, I continued to mumble. Although he's not bad looking, and his voice is quite pleasant, and he can recite many poems off the cuff, he's not as... Just as I entered the room, before I could even say the last word, handsome, Jason pinned me against the wall. In front of him, under the subtle influence of alcohol, a sudden rush of blood went to my head. In about half a minute, or perhaps a full minute, I swallowed 3 times. Before I could swallow the 3rd time, my mouth was covered by another mouth. That lingering kiss slid all the way down to my collarbone, making me feel slightly dizzy. When I was completely unprepared, Jason suddenly picked me up and threw me onto the bed. After I bounced 3 times on the soft mattress, he quickly climbed on top, his entire body suspended over me. Wait. However, Jason's series of actions didn't stop. He leaned his head close, bit my earlobe, and said, Looks like I need to remind you whose girlfriend you are. His warm lips covered mine again. I couldn't help but start to feel a little anticipation, but then he suddenly stopped. Didn't you shower? You smell entirely of sodium chloride and urea. The irritation I had just experienced at the meeting flooded my mind again. I pushed him away forcefully and suddenly sat up. Jason, that's too much. If you don't want to play, then don't play. But to elevate the conversation to the level of professional knowledge, isn't that just insulting? I climbed out of bed. He quickly asked, Where are you going? To take a shower. I swear I didn't mean to hint at anything. When I pushed open the bathroom door, I suddenly noticed a faint, almost imperceptible smile on Jason's face. After I emerged from the bathroom with a flushed face, he was already gone. A sudden wave of disappointment made me feel utterly shameless and vulgar. I wandered around for a while, feeling like there was nothing to do, so I listlessly flopped onto the bed and casually watched TV. A short while later, there was a knock at the door. My heart tightened, and I quickly straightened my pajamas. deliberately slowing my pace as I slipped on my slippers and opened the door. It was Jason. His hands emerged from behind his back, holding a large pile of black, tubular objects. "For you." I was stunned, examining them for a long time. "What are these?" He smiled. "Open them and see." After opening one, I realized they were lipsticks, the rounded tip that twisted out, particularly eye-catching. I asked, "Why are they round?" He replied, "I molded them using small test tubes." "You made them?" After opening each one, I discovered that every shade was different. This straight-laced guy's ability to research lipstick shades so thoroughly truly moved me to tears. And the smooth, moisturizing texture. "It's practically comparable to Givenchy's Le Rouge," I exclaimed. "Jason, you're amazing! Let's start a lipstick brand." Grinning, I tried on each shade one by one, asking him, "Why did you suddenly give me lipstick? And there's no lab here. Where did you get them?" "I brought them from school." A hint of disappointment flickered across his face, and he continued, "Today is our 3rd anniversary, and I thought you came with me because you wanted to celebrate together. Now it seems I overestimated your memory." I, who had been immersed in happiness, suddenly felt my nose sting. "I'm sorry, I'm used to it." He sighed, leaned down, and ruffled my hair, his tone full of doting affection. "All these materials are food grade, so..." "So what?" I sniffled and asked him. Jason leaned down and lightly pecked my lips. "So it's convenient for kissing." After returning to school, Jason continued to live in the dorms, and I returned to my daily routine of being cooped up at home writing. Although I wasn't good at academics, I was determined to write a bestseller and stand shoulder to shoulder with Jason. One day, when he walked in without warning, I was disheveled, hunched over, and grinning like an auntie at the screen, my fingers flying as I wrote a shy yet passionate boat scene between the male and female leads. By the time I realized he was standing behind me, his handsome eyes were already intently staring at my screen. He turned and pressed me beneath him, his warm palm exploring my waist through the silky silk pajamas, continuously moving until it reached the softest spot. My face suddenly flushed crimson, and I instinctively slammed my laptop shut with a snap. Jason glanced at me with a look of disdain, then got up and walked away. When he was 3 steps away from me, I heard him mumble to himself, "Looks like it's still fresh in your mind." That afternoon, he moved his luggage into the 2nd bedroom of the apartment. Although I was happy to live with him day and night, I still feigned reserve and asked, "Why did you suddenly move in?" He replied while tidying up, "To make it easier for you to gather writing material." I tried my best to pretend not to understand, but my flushed face instantly betrayed my inner perversion. One sunny morning, after Jason went to the lab, I had a sudden urge to clean the house. It's just that I'm not very good at being a domestic goddess, and I accidentally knocked over some of Jason's documents. Among the neatly stacked lab reports, I actually caught a glimpse of my own name. My burgeoning curiosity made me whoosh and pull it out. The content above was roughly as follows. Experiment date. After graduation. Defense experiment. Name. How to successfully propose. Experiment personnel. Jason. Isabel. Experiment principal. 3 years of relationship. Foundation. Experiment. Instruments. Ring. Sincerity. Experiment. Steps. 1. Determine proposal location. 2. Prepare proposal wording. 3. Debug. Experiment. Instruments. 4. Officially carry out the proposal process. Error analysis. If she doesn't agree, I'll just force it. Tears welled up in my eyes from laughing. And when I saw the last item, my hand involuntarily trembled. I never thought Jason could be so shamelessly serious. I took a picture of this lab report and sent it to my best friend. The Goodman said that he was tight-lipped, but in the blink of an eye, it spread throughout the circle of friends. Because the experimental report is fresh and refined, it is only for 1 day, and it is even a mess on Weibo. The next night, Jason pulled his face back to the apartment and saw me, and gritted his teeth and shouted, "Isabel, what are you doing?" I felt a little guilty, but I thought at the very least I couldn't lose in terms of momentum, so I cleared my throat and tried to hold my head high and puff out my chest. "You dare to write it but not let people read it?" His mouth twitched twice, probably genuinely angered by me. Just as I was thinking, oh no, I've actually made Jason angry. What do I do? What do I do? He suddenly threw his bag onto the sofa, stepped forward, grabbed my wrist, and leaned over, pressing me to the floor. Oh my goodness, this floor is a bit hard. Please calm down, my good man. I had an indescribable premonition and quickly struggled to stop him from taking further action. But at this moment, Jason was like a fierce beast. I could almost see his hidden fangs, poised to strike. I'm going to start dealing with experimental errors. Experimental errors. Forced. Can't we follow the experimental procedure? I was pinned down by him, suddenly chickened out, and pleaded tearfully. And the experimental time isn't even up yet. The time has changed. It's now, he said, a mischievous smile playing on his lips. I'm confident the experiment will succeed on the first try. Just as something that violated socialist harmonious values was about to happen. I suddenly remembered all the effort I had put in to flirt with him. I silently cursed myself countless times. Isabel, you're such an idiot! All that talk about how hard it is to flirt with a science and engineering boyfriend, it's all an illusion, an illusion. The next morning, as I rubbed my eyes, I felt a metallic touch between my fingers. Looking closely, I found a silver ring on my ring finger. Although the style wasn't extraordinary, it was engraved with the letters IJ, Jason, and Isabel. Happiness was like water in a cup, so full it was about to overflow. My eyes welled up, and I stared at it for a long time before stopping. When I looked up, Jason was leaning against the door, watching me with a smile in his eyes. Do you like it? With tears in my eyes, I nodded vigorously. This isn't another one of your experimental results, is it? I asked, belatedly. It is, he replied. But I only extracted the silver particles. I had someone else help with the processing. I couldn't help but laugh. So, what's the meaning of silver? Element 47 on the periodic table has no special meaning. He approached me, saying unhurriedly, I just wanted to tell you that last night's experiment was successful. My ears instantly burned. He then took out a new experiment report and handed it to me, the content of which was roughly as follows. Experiment date. Last night experiment. Name. How to successfully propose experimenters. Jason. Isabel. Experiment principle. Excessive hormone secretion. Experiment apparatus. Jason's body. Experiment. Procedure. Forced embrace. Error analysis. Perfectly accurate. He smirked. Go ahead and send it to someone else if you dare. I swear I won't this time, because I have some dignity. Later, my best friend, with her big mouth, told Jason all the stupid things I had done before. I wanted to tear her apart. Jason said, Are you so eager to give yourself to me? My face flushed. I really didn't think about those R-rated things at first. He didn't believe me. I continued to explain. Really? I just simply wanted to see you every day. His eyes suddenly lit up, and he looked at me and slowly replied, Isabel, but my thoughts about you stopped being simple a long time ago.